We're back, baby. Horns Up, Talking Texas podcast. Fisher Casopoulos, DJ, Nikki, Snacks Crider, the Quan, Cosby. Those listening on ESPN 102.7 Austin. What's up, everybody? Happy New Year. Scary New Year, I should say.
Ooh.
Heart Attack Central New Year. But you know what? A great way to start the year. Nonetheless, the Horns are undefeated in 2025, and that's a great thing to say. Quan, as always, you were boots on the ground. What was the vibe there? How did we travel? How was the crowd? How was the Horns crowd there? Because they showed on the TV Arizona State crowd a lot.
Well, I will say this: two things. The yellow is bright, and I was insanely surprised at how Arizona State traveled. I didn't think they would show up like they did, but it was more of a 50-50 deal, in my opinion. They said that 71,000 came. And I'm telling you, I bet you it was split down the middle. And kudos to their fan base. For the most part, they weren't mouthy. I think after the game, one of the fans was like, and one of our fans was like, "Oh man, they're not saying like." I was like, "Dude, they're in shock. What do you mean? They have nothing to say. I mean, this is wild. That was an emotional roller coaster." But our fans showed up too, man. And I know, being basically a 2-touchdown, favor, and the next game being in Texas, I know a lot of fans, I'm not going to call you out this time, that said, "I'm going to wait to the next one." And I said, there is no guarantee next one. And so you think about so many levels of what that was. And we can say they were a 2-touchdown dog. We're going to get into how mouthy they were, and they were. And I, like Nick Saban touches on, that screams insecurity to me, because I don't think you need to, speak softly, carry a big stick. That's what I've taught and where we roll. However, that narrative is weird. We have to, I think at some point, and Vegas is right about a lot of things, but I think this is a weird year, and I think football is changing to where this year Vegas was wrong, and it's NFL and college more than I think they've ever been. And that's something we have to dissect, because this is the top 12 teams in the country per the committee. So why would someone be a two-touchdown dog? This is the playoff. It's the top 12. At that point, it was the top 8. And so it's just an interesting little deal. And I digress to one last thing. The mouthiest team I ever played my 4 years in school was Arizona State in the Holiday Bowl. They were, I remember Rudy Carpenter, whatever his name was, the quarterback, the running backs. I mean, y'all may be too young for that, but we go to the Holiday Bowl. We're in San Diego. We go to like a joint lunch/dinner. Maybe not lunch and dinner. Maybe it's a dinner. And it was both teams. ADs came on. They did their little politician stuff. And the entire time, the team was just yapping and yapping and yapping and yapping. And we couldn't believe it. And they were even talking to coaches' wives, and maybe some girlfriends was there. It was the weirdest thing I've ever really dealt with. That didn't work out for them very much, which is a little bit of my issue. And we don't have to talk about it this show, but we have to figure out a way to not just get an edge, but to keep an edge. We jump out on them early. We get very comfortable, and then we're going into double overtime. And so all those things said, it was fun. It was unbelievable. Probably arguably one of the biggest roller coaster games I've been a part of as a fan. I'm okay with not having it again. And as long as we're on the winning side. And no, it was awesome, man. Atlanta did not disappoint. That dang game did not disappoint. Probably not even close. The best game to this point in the whole freaking playoff. Unfortunately,
Maybe ever.
We skipped a beat for it.
Probably ever. Yeah.
Probably ever in the college, like objectively, like when the dust settled and my heart rate slowed down a little bit, and I was watching with my girlfriend's, parents and some of her friends who were over. And they were all rooting for Texas because they could see how tense and upset people are calming me down. People are like, dude, we're still in. Like, they're like, dude, we're still in this. I'm like, bro, this is your first 3 quarters of Texas you've ever watched. Like,
you don't know what we do.
If you think this is like, I turned to my girlfriend's dad at one point. I'm like, so you like being a Texas fan? He like let out a huge sigh. I was like, this is every week. Even Overshawn, I think Nick, you sent it in our group text.
I sent you guys that tweet. Yeah. Overshawn's like, oh, so this is what it's like to be a Texas fan.
Yeah, it's like. Yeah,
we feel that.
Yeah, I mean, it was a really, roller coaster moment. Objectively, an incredible game, and I want to give, because I saw Colin Coward dissecting Quinn, and he was calling him a liability on his show. And Quinn's second and fourth into double coverage, a play he also threw earlier that didn't work. Major question for a lot of fans and a lot of people watching the game, why that was the play call in that moment. In the last few minutes, in the last couple drives into overtime, that was some of the best football Quinn Ewers has ever played for the Burnt Orange. And to be in a position where we missed 2 field goals at the end of the game to win, where you throw that interception, it's 4th and 13, to be able to sit in the pocket and deliver that touchdown strike, beautiful ball to Golden, who him and Nick, I know that's your guy all year long. Golden had his signature game for the Texas Longhorns this past New Year's Day, and showed the world that he is a top tier wide receiver in the nation. And him and Quinn on so many throws were an absolute lockstep. For him to do that and then come out in double overtime right away, where's Gunnar Helm all day, and hit Gunnar Helm on a beautiful ball where he was wide open, led him perfectly and into the end zone. I have to continue to beat the drum that Quinn Ewers being our guy at the moment is the right move because of that poise and his ability to shake things off and stay calm, cool, collect in the pocket, which is something we've knocked on him in the past, starting off a little lackadaisical, a little cavalier in moments. But his ability to stay calm, cool, collected, and not collapse and not fumble the game away and let it get away from him and do his thing, and him and Sark trusting each other and their playmakers, that I have to say is exactly why he's not on liability, but in fact an asset to our team.
Well, I think the thing that we talked about a couple weeks ago as well, about how scouts probably see stuff that most fans don't see. On that play, he made some audibles. You know, he covered to a max protect because they sent the house. He recognized that pre-play. And if they're setting the house and you just have your 5 men, you know, blocking for you, you're getting sacked or you're throwing the ball up immediately and it's going incomplete. But he checked, you know, the protection, slid his lineman over, and then I think he audibled the route to a post, and we score. And I mean, that's taking some big cojones there to do that on 4th and 13 with the season on the line, not even just the game on the line. Like, this is it. This is your last play as a Texas Longhorn if you don't make that correct decision.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
dude, it shows that all of what y'all are talking about is real. And I was laughing because on the plane back this morning, full of Longhorns, it was great. And it was funny. We talked 2-hour flight from Atlanta. We talked for 15 minutes of that flight, and no one on the plane, because I was certainly one of the younger ones, but no one on the plane went crazy, and everybody on the plane slept. That's how exhausting that game was.
A 4-hour game.
Huh?
Over a 4-hour game.
Oh, over a 4-hour game, and just the emotional craziness where the probabilities were jumping up like a freaking bad heartbeat. But it's easy in our nature and in these times to point out that interception that I still, like you said, Josh, don't think it was. He was a part of it, but that was on Sark. Sark, run the ball. You know, we 2nd and 4, you're up by 8. Run the ball, run the clock out. Have a 5-minute drive. It's over. I would say have a 5-minute drive, get points, and it's over. But we have a little situation in the kicking room. But they don't pay attention to the insane throws that he makes. He made one on the side one time where a defender was under him, and I was like, it looks so easy, but people don't get it.
Yeah.
You know, he made some throws on the side. He can make every freaking throw, whether it's a yard from the sideline, where it's in the middle. He's hitting windows. And again, we criticize him about turnovers and certain things when we need to, but it'd be interesting to take away the tip balls and to see the contrast.
Yeah.
I think, I don't know, let's just say he has 12 interceptions. Hell, I think 8 of them are tip balls. And so it's fascinating. And I got it. So many people are hard on him. I do see our fan base, that is a tough fan base, giving him his due now. But we have to do it because that was a Cape moment.
Yeah.
That thing was all but done in a lot of ways. And his poise and his abilities and his execution, because even then there was still a safety. Now we got past him, but there's still a safety. And then Golden caught it with about 2.5 yards left in the back of there's just so many levels of the game of inches of football that happened that was executed and well done, and him getting the protection right and delivering. So it was kudos for him. It was his cape moment. It was an insane moment. Now I will say this, Lang, who we were big friends, I was like, that was his 4th and 5 Vince Young moment. Let's not get crazy. Bro, that is the national championship game.
Well, Kyle's got to get the likes, man. No,
that's
you know
the world we're in now, and that's why the little thing. That's why the freaking targeting is literally dominating every social media and every national deal right now, because we're in such an exaggerated world of drama, and so. No, man, it was his cape moment. He made some money in that time. There's a lot of eyeballs. We talked about it all the time. Those are the things the scouts look. They turn off the announcers because they are biased. They literally watch what they watch and they go, I'm not sure what people are talking about. This dude can play.
Yeah.
And so he's
Jesse
proved
Palmer
it on
was
a
saying
bigger
on the
stage.
broadcast. Jesse Palmer on the broadcast was saying it. Like, there are not many people that could put that ball where Quinn is putting it to Golden, like you're talking about, on the outside, like right over the defender. He also had, like, low key, no one's talking about this. He had one of the most heads up plays of the entire game when Blue gets blown back in our own end zone, fumbles the ball, and he catches it and falls down and takes the safety. If that's a touchdown, we lose. That's the way things break out. That's a loss for us. We don't even go to overtime. So that was a really heads up play. And the safety and the targeting, everyone on social yapping about it. It was proven not a targeting for multiple reasons. And quite frankly, on the interception that Quinn threw, if you want to talk about targeting, if anything was a targeting that game, it was that shot that Bond took where he was completely defenseless and absolutely cleaned his clock. That was a targeting. Yeah.
Yeah. Quan, you were saying those sideline throws. I think that's his best ball. Those out routes that he throws, those between the numbers, on the sideline, the number, like those are his best balls. He always just figures a way to put it right where the defender can't get it. And as you saw, most of Golden's catches this game were on the outside. He had that huge one where it was that one-on-one ball down low, and just put it in the perfect place where Golden can get it. And then the 2-point conversion as well. That was a money throw and a money catch where he high pointed that. That was the only place that Golden could have caught that.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
T-Dot.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's not just one game with him, right? I think I've given Quinn a lot of praise this entire season as to how quarterbacking is complex, and it's more complex than just making the throws. But I also think, like, the real knack or knock on him for a lot of people who are NFL evaluators is the inconsistencies. And they are, I can't say that I'm not frustrated by them, because I am personally, because yes, he puts the cape on in overtime, but he also put the cape on too early with 5 minutes left to try and make a throw that he didn't have to make. And look, he has two guys in the flat on both sides, Gunnar Helm, and I can't remember who it was. I think it was Wisner on the other side.
Yeah, it was Wisner.
For easy first down completions. And when you're trying to eat clock, you have to know, in my opinion, as a quarterback, that you have to take what the defense is giving you. And you disagree with me, Quan? Like, does Sark tell him to throw that ball into covered coverage over the top? No, I get it, but we have to be honest about how they defended the run, and they were very disciplined in the gap. And Wisner was not seeing a lot.
He got 6 yards to play before then, Toss.
I understand. Look. My point is larger to Quinn.
Scottaboo had 1.8 carry. In the second half, it was about 6. The game changes every freaking time. At that moment, defending the run they got 6 yards on the play before. If you don't put them in positions to make that mistake, he don't make it. So he did.
I'm with you. But ultimately, like, the players do have to make the plays. And look, even taking a sack there is better than airing that ball out into double coverage. Like, it's not what we want, but I'm just saying, like,
you're making my point with that one, by the way. Because taking a sack would have been like a 3rd, 4-yard loss. The clock still runs. You keep the ball. Then why even put it yourself in that position?
No, I agree with you. But I'm just saying, when that play is called, it's not the right play call.
And it was a good play. The DB made a good play.
But the ball was also underthrown. I mean, as many throws as I was impressed with with Quinn, he has had trouble throwing the deep ball recently in the last 4 games that we've seen. When it comes to 30+ yards throws down the field, I don't know what it is. It doesn't look like the same zip that we've seen in previous games where he's demonstrated that he can put the right touch or the right zip on those balls. Like, I trust him making those throws. Some of the most impressive, the one that you're talking about, Nick, with the it was like 4th and 3 where we went for it and it was a one look, only had eyes on Golden, and Golden made that play. Like, excellent throw, only where Golden could catch it. I think underratedly, like, the edges are coming in on him. His ability to throw a perfect ball to the flat to Wisner, like to the long side of the field, not a lot of quarterbacks can do that. I'm taking every throw for what he can do and what he sometimes doesn't do. Like, you're the quarterback for the Texas Longhorns. You're going to get this microscope on you. Everybody's going to nitpick every missed throw. We won this game. He did exactly what he needed to do in overtime for us to win this game. And he's one of the reasons why we were able to win it. But he's going to have to be even better and more consistent against this next opponent, because they're not Arizona State. Their defense is far more ferocious, especially up front and on the edge. More NFL talent on the Ohio State Buckeye team. And Quinn's going to be tested once again, and we're going to have to be able to run the football. And look, like, part of the reason I could see why maybe Sark makes that play call where he trusts our pass attack in that moment is because, yes, we ran the ball right before for 6 yards, but previously in the game, they had done a good job of stifling our run. And we need the run. We need the run to open things up. The RPO, the first throw of the game was a slant off of the RPO, and he's looking at the safety, and we identified that was a weakness that they had, and Golden takes the ball for 50 yards. So that RPO is, and we talked about it before we got into maybe the first round game, Quan, how important that is for our offense to be clicking. But if we're not able to run the football, like, it's going to be really tough. So I also think you got to give a lot of credit to Dillingham and his coaching staff, what they did from a time of possession standpoint, holding on to the football. Our defense, Makuba played over 100 snaps in that game. And our offensive snap leader was Quinn. He had 60. We had 63 offensive snaps to their 96. Like, that's a crazy, crazy difference. Our guys were on the field far too long. And again, that has to do with their ability to stop the run, in my opinion. And also just some weird things that happen in the game, right? We have penalties that extend drives for them. We score on a punt. So obviously that's one drive of offense that we don't get. So those are plays right there, but we're not complaining about it. Silas Bolden, second punt return this year. You got to love that. Our special teams, we could have had a blocked punt on that first drive too. And unfortunately, he runs into the punter, but some of that's just luck, right?
Special teams was weird this game. I will say. It
was a very weird special.
Started off with the
second half of the year.
Yeah, starting off the running and the kicker. Obviously, we score the touchdown on the punt return, but then they have the fake punt that they take down the sideline. It was just obviously, Curley missing 2 big field goals, like just a weird ass special teams game.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll give the kudos to Dillingham as well. Like, that fake punt's on their own 20. That was a gutsy play call. The Scatabo touchdown throw was 4th and 2. Like, those are major turning points and major risk points. But you're 100% right, Toss. And Q, I want to hear your thoughts on, from a player standpoint, the time of possession. I mean, people in group text and watching with are like, Quinn's not playing well. I'm like, well, Quinn's not really playing like you're saying to us. He's not really in the game. He didn't play like that much. No, the time possession was so drastically different. Like, as far as third down goes, we had 13 third down attempts. Yeah. They had 24 third down attempts.
Yeah.
They really managed they hung on to the football as long as they humanly possibly could. And I feel as if you're an offensive player in an offensive team, you're totally out of rhythm because you're not on the field and you're not playing.
Ultimately, we've seen this formula. Kentucky beat Georgia because they held on to the football. Vanderbilt beat Alabama because they held on to the football. Arkansas did the same with Tennessee. We saw it in our own conference. So that's how you beat high-powered offenses. We saw Michigan and Ohio State. It's so funny because this is college ball. This is what it is, and it's so up and down. Ohio State's coach is on the chopping block, and now Ohio State is USC, and Matt Leinart days. They're acting like they're unbeatable, and yeah, they beat Oregon bad, and Oregon defense hasn't been great all year long anyway. Old Pac-12 kind of perspective. Offense was pretty potent, and they ran into some dogs who got more physical, who were in their zone and had a better day. The beauty of one thing we got to touch on, in the elephant in the room, is we don't know what is responsible for it. Some will say NIL, some will say realignment, a million things, but anyone could beat anyone, especially in probably like the top 20 any day. It's just the truth of the matter. Any day, if you hold on to the ball and if you take care of the ball. And so time of possession was that, and that's their game. Ultimately, some of the games that they won in the Big 12, they're going to run it a million times. The cool piece was it was a heavyweight battle, their run game versus our defense, because Scatterboo, as great of a game as he eventually had, and there's somebody people aren't giving us enough love to. First half, we had him in check. He had like 30-some yards rushing. But you know who kept making plays for them then? Was their quarterback. When you extend a play like that, when you run a this half to that half, and you got big balloompas in the middle chasing them, you have them, that wears on you. That is stuff we just really don't consistently have to deal with. I would argue, old boy from Vandy didn't run around as much as this quarterback did.
No.
And so that stuff. So when Scatterboo got loose, when we're on play 70, and going into mid third, fourth, we're gas. Now, truth of the matter is, Scatterboo was just as gas. Why? Because the equal respect, punches. He was getting his butt tagged. He has never got hit like our defense hit him. Now, in the end, they made crazy off schedule things happen. He did have that one really good long run and literally had to go out and almost threw up afterwards. And so it's weird when you really truly dissect it and break it down. But that quarterback was arguably the bigger game changer, very similar to what you saw when we played Georgia. Those off-schedule runs did more damage than Scatterboo himself. Then, of course, the toll it took on our defense eventually led to Scatterboo just going buck wild and being who he is and having a hell of a game. And he did that. And
100%.
so, again, kudos to him. He's a baller. He's a dog. But a lot of that happened because of that time of possession, because of the quarterback getting like a 3rd and 16 with his legs running on the side, that all of this stuff collectively happened, and it wore us down, and they kept the ball. And then we did rough a punter. We did keep them on the field. It was all kind of craziness from that standpoint. But yeah, that was the formula. And as much as it was a great one, that tells you how special we actually are.
I think that's ultimately where my ire and frustration comes from, is because I know what this team can be and can still has the opportunity, thankfully, to demonstrate if they play a clean game. Like just be clean.
The word is complete. We
complete.
have not played a complete game this year, and yet we have 2 losses and we're in the Final Four. That's listen, I share that frustration. I promise you. I do. I last night they were like, let's go celebrate. I was like, why? I was like, I'm very, very, very happy, but I need to go sit down and figure something out, because third quarter, bro, we need
like,
to
who are we? Can we play like first, second, fourth, and fifth quarter? Like, can we get rid of the third quarter?
If you need an IV, go get some water. If you need to go pee. In the third quarter, we should just sit on the sideline, stretch, watch our bands play, because whatever we're doing in there is not working.
No.
The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again. Then I heard the unfortunate piece about maybe there's tweets in or something, but I didn't hear that till a little bit ago. But whatever we're doing at halftime, I'm uncomfortable. I'm about to start just skipping the third quarter as a fan, because it's mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Before the game, I said 2 things to a good buddy of mine. I said 2 things. If we score 10 points in the third quarter, we're going to blow them out. And unfortunately, on the negative side, if we leave it up to our kicking game, we're in big trouble. Listen, I'm no genius on no level. I played a lot of ball, but both of those things that I said would be a problem is why we went into overtime. So we go back to other things. That's not Quinn. Quinn is not perfect. Football is not perfect. No quarterback is.
Yeah.
Baker Mayfield threw 5 touchdowns the other day, but he threw an interception too. So that just happens. But it's just the complete game, complementary football Sark talks about, and we, for some reason, get a bit comfortable, and that's the edge I'm talking about. How do we get this team to play with a very, and maybe being the underdog will do it, but to play with an edge, not just the first quarter, but through all of it. And that is when we will be a very, very, very dangerous team, and we can host a trophy at the end if we can develop that.
Mistake
Really
free
quick.
too, because I feel like in crucial drives, you come out of a timeout and then false start. It's like, what,
Dude,
how is that happening?
how is that happen? I literally said that.
Lack of focus.
2-minute warning. We came out of the timeout. How frustrating was that? 2-minute warning. We came out of the timeout false start. How's that possible? Like, how is that possible? That's a great
Multiple
thing to bring
times
up.
too, not just
Every
once.
This is hopefully to the underdog point. Hopefully, Quan, this will be helpful because I think
They won't be talked good about all week.
This
And
is the
maybe
first
that's what
time we're
we need.
underdogs.
Nah, we were at Georgia.
Georgia,
We
The
were
first
Georgia.
first Georgia game.
Yeah, first Georgia we were.
Okay, I thought we were favored at home. I could be wrong. I thought this is the first time we were
You know
underdogs.
what? I don't. You know what? I think you're right because we were number 1 at that point.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
right, because they had lost. Yeah,
They lost. I think this is
preseason
the first preseason they were favored.
Yeah,
but I think
we
this
were
is the
favored
first time
too.
we're a dog
Yeah.
all year. So maybe that throws a little pressure off. I mean, but on your point, Nick, like everybody on the offensive line for the first time all year had a penalty. Every single one of all 5 of our offensive linemen had a penalty. Even Banks, who was great once again,
Yeah,
he had a penalty, and Gooseby had a penalty. I think Hudson had 2. I think like the Majors was our best offensive lineman. He got a penalty. Campbell had everyone.
Yep.
And it's at
Hudson had,
costly
like, 4.
times, like 2nd and 13. That's why we get to 4th and 13. Like, and when you play a team next, week like Ohio State, like Toss is saying, whose front 7 is ferocious, who has had 3 guys against Oregon that had that had 2 sacks a pop, 18 sacks as a total. Like you have to be mistake free or try to be as close to mistake free on the offensive line. That was one of our biggest issues. We didn't really turn the ball over that much. We had 1 pick in the end of the game. The run game obviously didn't get going, but the big issue is every offensive lineman having a penalty, 1 having 2. That's just unacceptable if you want to try to win football games and hoist the trophy, like you guys are saying at the end of the year. On the defensive side of the football, you talk about the offense. Yes, Levitt made some excellent plays. I'm glad you gave his flowers, Quan. That 3rd and 15 run was a dagger in overtime and really just an incredible play by him and definitely gave shade to Georgia. If you are watching Texas football, if you were an alien put on this planet for the first time and we're like, yo, watch the game and you tell me who the best player on Texas defense is, you're going to have a really tough time, in my opinion, not saying Colin Simmons. If you are watching that game, that freshman, number 11, was everywhere. Burke was excellent. Jade had to go very physical. Muhammad struggled, unfortunately. I felt Makuba had the big
a little bit this game.
Calf had his worst game, but I think
Muhammad had that one very, very timely.
Yes, he had a great play.
I mean, that was a huge play.
Yeah, he laid out for that one. That was money.
Laid out. He needed that.
Unbelievable.
I also don't love though, like when Scatterbo throws that touchdown and mid play, he like throws his arms up, like what, like just make the play first, then like
Yeah.
And that was a wonky play. That was such a wonky play.
But that's
a lot of
you know what? That's what's so much when you have 3 weeks, and this is not talked about a lot. Now the weird piece is everyone who's had 3 weeks has lost.
Exactly.
Until we'll see what happens today. We have to say prayers for everybody in New Orleans and all that's going on around this crazy world that even caused this delay. But going back to it, they had 3 weeks and they took full advantage of it. They had nothing to lose. They were 2 dogs, and they just did crazy off. There is a thing in football, and then also momentum matters. They just did stuff that was not. We actually played a better game. It was so emotional, and it's why I love going back and watching games without my crazy emotions involved. I go, and we always, Coach Brown said it best. So kudos to Coach Brown, retiring, coming back to Austin. It's never as good as you think. It's never as bad as you think. And I think we're going to go back and watch that game. We're going to be like, huh, that's the flukiest play ever. That's the backyard BS. You don't really you try your best to plan for backyard, but you can't because it's unpredictable. A halfback pass at 4th and 2 with a Bam Bam Sam running back that everybody on the planet thinks you're gonna. I mean, it's just a lot of stuff. Kudos to them on the job they did, and I don't even take that as out coaching Sark. Sark, that's just why does it always have to be this outdid this? And I see the guy y'all like, CJ. Oh, coach got out. No, why can't Scatterboo be a hell of a dude who had a great game? Their coach made insanely ballsy calls that most coaches and teams aren't going to plan for. And even if you coach a guy and say, all right, hey man, blah, 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 you're trying to tackle Scatterboo, your focus is going to be back there to make sure you do it. We've done it more than any team on the planet. 4th and 1s, 4th and shorts, goal line stands. It is almost laughable how many goal line stands we have had now. So you have that mindset and it works. Well, guess what?
Another one.
You're all in on that. You're a little bit vulnerable in other areas.
We almost have another one unless his lineman carries him into the end zone.
Exactly.
Like that was insane.
Which should have been a 5-yard penalty.
Which should have been a penalty. So again, there's a lot of wonky, crazy stuff. So I'm frustrated because we do put ourselves in those positions. We don't have that. And I don't mean this as an overly bad take, but we haven't really developed that killer instinct to take it from 14 to 28 to 31. And you're like, oh, good luck. Then you can coast. A 2 touchdown lead in today's football is like a 6-point lead in basketball. You hit 2 threes and you're good. That's nothing. So you need to develop that killer instinct. Don't get comfortable. Don't get happy because we're leading. No, keep the freaking pedal to the metal. That is, I don't give 2 hoots about the all gas, no break, other than when you have two touchdown leads, then let's go all gas.
Well, it's one of those things where I think our personnel dictates that we should be scariest when we have a 2-score lead.
Yeah.
Like there's we have so many weapons and so many different guys got involved. And you mentioned some of them, Josh, and Wingo had a really important slant that he caught to set up Burt to miss that field goal and doink it off the left upright. But he was pivotal on that drive. You know, he was important.
That was a huge play.
Huge play. We have so much talent, and especially on the offensive side of the ball, of course, on the defensive side of the ball too. And I just, again, like that's where my ire and frustration comes from, because I know that in that third quarter, when we're up 16 points, like that should be when we're most dangerous, because it should be catch pace with us against a pretty faulty Arizona State defensive backfield. Although you got to give credit to that guy. When he came back in, he made a play right off the bat, right? The guy that they missed for the first half. And of course, he was, in my opinion, their most dynamic playmaker on the defense. And he showed it only in one half of football plus 2 overtimes.
Oh, he was a baller.
He's a baller. He's a pro. I mean, the thing about, focusing on, hey, you got to tackle, like focusing on one thing is really challenging in a game of football. If you don't have your 100% focus on tackling Cam Scatterbo, he's already past you. He's already through you. Like that guy is, I have to give him the utmost credit, because I even think, and Nick and I were talking about, we were watching the game together, I think he was concussed. Like that guy was, if you watched,
we were talking about that too.
He's obviously throwing up on the sideline. They mentioned that on the telecast.
Which, by the way, is
shaking the dust every
is like one of the first indications that you're concussed.
I mean, every single play, like he breaks off a run and then he's on the ground. Breaks off a run, he's on the ground. Breaks off a run,
my point to him getting smacked. I mean, he took some hits too.
He could not play consecutive plays. Like he had to come in, come out all game long. Toss's girlfriend the whole time was like, he is not well. He's concussed. He's gonna die.
Like, they showed his highlights at one point in the game from the game thus far, and every time he was tackled, it was a shot to the head. He was getting absolutely raw. He took a beating.
It was also head bouncing off the turf.
It was a lot, man. He took a beating
so much, and then they finally be like, dude, let's get you down," and then just bam. I saw some bounces off the turf, and I go, "Oh, is he got? Now he's up. Now he's running to the sideline. Oh, he's bent over. Oh, he the water throw." It was again. The dude earned an enormous amount of respect.
Yeah,
played his heart out. Video game numbers in the end.
Money too.
But again, you take away a couple of scenarios, kudos to his effort. But we still, in my opinion, per some of the just insane games you've seen, when it got crazy, it got crazy. But it's just wild to think. I think it got crazy. We chased his quarterback down. We're in play 60 to 100. You're going to get better in those scenarios. You just saw.
I can only, like, we were winning off the jump from a defensive line standpoint almost every single play too. As much as you're saying, Josh, like Colin, he had a couple of huge sacks in this game, but he also had a lot of times where he won the matchup, and then all of a sudden Levitt's scrambling for, 5 more seconds, 5 to 7 more seconds. And obviously that turned into 2 really important defensive holding penalties, one of which was on the 2-point conversion when they were coming back, right? And then that allowed them to gain extra yardage where then they just punched in with Scatabo.
Yeah.
But
that same one where they didn't see Simmons getting bear hugged. I mean, it's just we won't go into that, but it just stuff like that, which is ultimately it comes with the game, right? We're saying that because we won. A lot of people pissed off trying to get them suspended if we didn't. But
I got some stats for you guys though, if you want them, in terms of like the pressures and tackling on the subject.
Yeah, let's get it.
Sure.
We have in the game. So Broughton actually was pretty fantastic. Another guy we had.
He was a monster. He blocked the field goal too.
Yeah, he was great. He had 6 hurries and pressure, 6 total pressures, 6 hurries. Simmons had 8 pressures, 5 hurries, 2 QB hits and a sack. Sorrell had 5 hurries. Burke had 4 hurries. Moore had 3 hurries, and then Hill, Taff, and Collins. On that subject, though, Broughton had 2 missed tackles. Sorrell had 2 missed tackles. Simmons had 1. Anthony Hill had 4, and Trey Moore had 2. So there was just a ton of missed tackles in terms of really going after the quarterback, and that was something you saw. Like, you're talking about us winning these matchups, and we were winning the matchups. Broughton was in there. Burke had, I think it was Burke with the tip, actually, Q, to correct you. Sorry. Burke had the tip on the field goal, and he had another tip. He's 6'6", great athlete, and he does not get enough flowers. And they were saying, I'm glad they said that on the broadcast too. He does not get enough credit because our defensive line is so deep and the rotation is so strong. And you can really play the hot hand. But there were times, like you're saying, Toss, we won those matchups, broke right through, and kudos to their quarterback. He's making plays and making guys miss in the defensive backfield, and we're just not bringing guys down and executing.
But so a lot of those missed tackles are not on him, though. A lot of those, that's not getting to him, and those would have been sacks, in my opinion. A lot of the missed tackles are on Scatabo, who Vern Broughton, one of those is he stops him, slows him down from losing ahead of steam, so then we can gang tackle, right? So it's like, it's a bit of a misnomer of a stat too, because a guy like that who's that big and is that strong on his lower half, like, you need more than one guy to bring him down a lot. And as long as he
had one bad one in overtime, that was the one where he scrambled for that first down.
Anthony Hill was deer in the headlights on that play.
Anthony finally had a young game. He did.
I got really upset at that play, but that was quickly turned around, because once he did convert there, we put some pressure on them. I know they ended up getting in on that play or on that score, but we made it tough for him. I mean, it's like, it was a slugfest. It was a dogfight of a game.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was the best. I mean, that Tua throw to win it for them was like, I don't know if you can get much better than that. But to me, this was number 2 right behind that as far as college football playoff era games. I don't know how you
Makuba could have been the defensive MVP in that game.
Baller.
Oh, you know what? I actually got something to say about that. And I think it's okay saying it, but they gave it to Jade, right? Jade, being the person that he is, I was told, said, take my name off of this. Makuba's the MVP. And that's the cultural things you love. Those are the things you appreciate. Believe it or not, I guess some of this whole who's the MVP and not gets a little political, not by the coach, not by Sark and all them, but that's it. Just shows who Jade is as well. And he gave props to Taff and Makuba and literally got them. And I don't know if they showed this on TV when they were doing the celebration, but when they were talking to Jade, he literally in the stadium, the camera went straight to Makuba. It was a cool moment for why that secondary has done what they have for the most part. They're going to need to do it again this week. We know that, but why they've done so well together. And John, you get the game-winning pick in double overtime.
Yeah,
It's
that's like kind of a
again,
head. It's kind of a head
well,
scratcher.
but this is the
honestly,
thing. If you're the SID or somebody, I guess you're like, let's give it to the Thorpe winner. No, dude. No. Yeah, I love him. He was a baller, made great tackles. You give it to the guy that sealed the game. And
Right.
so
And was all over
Yeah.
the place all game too.
it was
He
all
might-
over the place all
he-
game.
He might have had the only solo tackle on Scatterby that I can remember off the top of my head, where he got him
yeah,
by the leg
the
and he
ankles. Yeah, that was
actually
a big one.
It was
pulled him down.
Huge.
I remember seeing that when I was like, oh no, 1-on-1 with Scatterbo, like that's not good. And then he made the tackle, which is great. I want to talk quickly about special teams, about kicking.
Oh.
What the hell do we need to do here? Because the news came out before this week that Bert Auburn's staying for another season. And we were all like, okay, whatever. And then in the broadcast, they're like, Bert Auburn, he's made the most field goals in Texas Longhorn history. And Toss turns to me and is like, I hate that. Like seriously, there's been
Hey, look, he's a Longhorn. I appreciate what he's done for our program. I'm frustrated with him right now. And so obviously for him, to hold that record, it's a meaningful record.
Give it to Justin Tucker. Like this guy is
Yeah.
like, I don't know what you can do at this point, because I feel like we see this every week where Sark pulls Bird up to the sideline, gets in his face, puts his hands on his shoulder pads. They're smiling at each other. They're talking to each other. I don't know what they're saying. They look like they're like planning dinner next week or something.
I mean,
like
for real.
And
dude.
then he goes out and misses it.
Do
And
you
then
guys
same
like
thing
when
happens
Sark
again.
does? Do you guys like when Sark does that?
I think I
Or-
like it, and then he misses it.
He's
So
trying
maybe
to be supportive, bro.
In
He's not
premise,
telling-
I like it, but
He's trying to calm him down,
yeah.
be supportive. But at the same time, we score on 4th and 13, and we're the happiest people on the planet. And the knot that I felt in my throat and my belly
Oh
about
my
him making
gosh.
an extra point, I was like, why am I this nervous about an extra point?
Yeah, well, 'cause we've
That's how
seen Nick Rose miss a
inconsistent
field goal.
that's
against
how
Cal.
much PTSD we have with him kicking. So
And it was a bad
Nick-
snap too. I don't know if anybody really
oh no, I
caught that,
saw
but-
it, and I was like, so that's what I'm like, dude. It's a real issue, and for Longhorn history, Dusty Mangum, Rose Bowl, so many kicks. Justin Tucker, we play in him again, but so many games won with kicks, far more tough than 36-yarder right up the middle.
Dicker, huge one in OU.
Dicker, OU, my man in Nebraska that took us to the national championship against Bama, Hunter Lawrence. I can tell you so many. It matters. It does. And man, this is my question. Is it too late in the season? If you have a guy behind him,
Yeah, Will Stone.
I don't know how it is a week away from the game, regardless of what day it is you're listening. I would probably, as a coach, have some guys out there. There's no starter right now. I'm just sorry. I get what everybody feels is late in the season, but the season would be over if we don't. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing. And listen, he might regroup and be a phenomenal kicker forever in the NFL, for all I know. But right now, he is. You pull a pitcher, you pull certain positions to get. They're asking for freaking Arch to be in over Quinn. I call baloney on that. But it would be nice if there's another option while this guy gets his brain right. And I understand it as mental. It is what it is.
There's an option.
You're in a position.
Will Stone is our kickoff specialist.
You're in the Final Four.
He's got a leg.
It can't get worse.
No, not at all.
It literally can't. It can't.
It can't. It literally cannot get worse.
It's critical.
It's one thing if you have walk-ons on your roster who are just like, all right, we're just having kickoff tryouts. But like this kid, Will Stone, was the number 2 rated place kicker coming out of high school. Like he's the guy who backs up Bert Auburn. Like he was a nationally rated kicker coming out of high school who was recruited to come to Texas.
He's a lefty,
been with
right?
us for 2 years now, and he is their kickoff specialist. And he hasn't been able to really even take a field goal attempt because we've got Bert Auburn there.
Yeah, but like we want to do that. We're right there. I know.
But what does
the
it
thing
matter?
about
What's the difference, Josh? We're
I
missing
mean,
we're missing
what is
every
the
kick.
risk?
No, you're right. I mean, Burt he's 5 of 5 within 20 yards on 20 yarders.
So am
4
I.
of 4 on 30 yarders.
So is the
He's-
guy on game day that gets to do it for charity.
Well,
Real.
did I text you guys? I don't forget who I sent the text to. I said in a group text, I'm like, at this point, Burt is no better than the drunk kid kicking for McAfee's money on game day.
Bro,
I
I'm
literally
like,
said that's
those field goals are probably 20 yards.
Maybe that's what Burt. Maybe it was a little sauce. Just get rid of the anxiety. Now, I to your thing that you're talking about, like I appreciate Sark has to try something, right? And he knows his guy, so
this
he's
is
gonna.
too important. You don't get these opportunities every year.
But when I see it and I see the hands on the shoulders, I'm like, red alert. That feels phony to me, and I just feel like he's gonna miss. But it's also like I've watched him miss now, so I have this built-in like expectation. But in criticism of what I was saying about Quinn, obviously, like we don't want him to throw that interception, but then he does exactly what quarterbacks are supposed to do, and he puts together 2 quote unquote game-winning drives to put us in field goal range to hit 2 field goals, and we missed both. And it's just like, and the second one is inexcusable. A 38-yard, like you have to make that kick. You have to make that kick.
I have to make it. No, I'm with you. I'm just saying, like, it's a little frightening to make that switch, but you brought up the Tua game. If Jalen,
no, it's frightening when you're worried that he's going to miss an extra point.
It's all scary. I'm saying you brought up the Tua game. If you could pull Jalen Hurts in the national championship for Tua, you can pull Burt Auburn for Will Stone. And another stat I'll throw at you guys. From the left hash, he's 5 of 5. From the middle of the field, he's 5 of 7. From the right hash this year, he's 5 of 10.
Yeah. That dive by Quinn was hilarious, by the way.
That looks scary.
So knowing that, why are we not running plays to the left side then?
Well, he tried. That's why he tried to get over that play where he was.
Yeah, but the play before that was literally completely to the right sideline. So it's why can't we just do that to the other side?
And Banks on the left side, so it makes a lot of sense to go left.
I don't know why we didn't get it to the left hash. Quinn tried to do it in a disastrous, ugly.
Well, that like
fell, fumbled. I mean, that would have been.
Yeah, but he threw the pass to Wisner, and Wisner got like 8 more yards. Like those are important yards. Yeah. I'd say the yardage is more important than, or it should be more important than the positioning. But it's just like
it's a 38-yard 30, and I thought it was 36. 30. I mean, it's in the 30-yard field goal. Right side, left side, middle side. If you want to play at D1 level where you're in the final 4, 8, 12 in a playoff, you should make 40-yard field goals or less, like their layups. That to me, that is a layup. Mm-hmm. And so
they also need.
I don't know what they're going to do, but I don't know how you don't at least see what's out there option.
Well, no, they need to treat like they do in the NFL. Guy doesn't cut in the NFL after a week or two, he's gone, right? I mean, obviously you have the luxury of signing free agents, which you don't have here, but I don't think we need to, beat around the bush here. Like this guy should not be our kicker next year, let alone maybe next week.
No, he's blowing it. He blew it. Think about this. Quite frankly,
we could have won the SEC championship.
Yes.
We could be playing. This could be a preview of the Notre Dame game right now. Quite frankly, like realistically, if he could hit some field goals, like we wouldn't even be recapping this crazy Arizona State game. We'd be talking about how we're going to beat Notre Dame, and Quan would be in New Orleans right now. Like that's like the realistic situation.
I mean, we'd have an SEC championship already, back-to-back championship, a Big 12 and the SEC. If we make very, very average distant kicks. No one is asking him to make a 62-yarder. No one's even asking him to make a 50-yarder. You're talking 42 yards to 30.
We're going for that point. We're definitely going for it at that point.
You know what? Their kicker, they throw up a stat when he blocked that first one, right?
Yeah.
But then he hits one later. That kicker past 30 yards was like 5 for 13 on the year or something like that.
Yeah, it was like 4 for 12.
4 for 12, and then by the time he hit the one, it was 5. Yeah, whatever. He hit one. That guy's been terrible all season, and he hit one. I
didn't know that. I was at the game. They didn't show us that stat. They
didn't put it on the big screen. This guy sucks.
I do think that obviously, like, it would have been amazing to be an SEC champion in year one, like you're saying, but there does seem to be something with coming in after playing a game into the second game, playing against the team with the bye, because especially what I'm keyed on, not necessarily if Georgia loses, but what the game looks like in the first and second quarter, like
Every team's come out slow.
they've been up. I think it was 14-0 in the Penn State game. Obviously,
it was 31, 34, not 31, nothing.
The Ohio State game, and then of course we went up to that early lead, 14-3, so 17-3 actually. So yeah, 17-3. What was it?
17-3 at the half. We were 14. I mean, we were 14-3 to run 2 offensive plays. The thing on the and I will say this: we beat the 8. Say what you will about these teams in the rankings. South Carolina and Alabama. By the way, South Carolina lost to Illinois. Alabama lost to Michigan. Who we beat? I don't know.
By the way,
anyway,
Jalen Milroe just declared for the draft too. Surprising.
Oh wow, that is surprising. After the game he played, I will say seriously, he should probably go back. And I don't know why he wouldn't go back.
I don't know. This quarterback class is pretty weak.
So, but still, it could be a weak quarterback class, but it doesn't mean, they're going to start forcing the shoe on the foot necessarily. It's a really strong class in terms of edges. Tons, like look at the Ohio State guys, and both those guys might not go in the first round. Like there's a ton of good edge guys. There's good corners.
Let's be the right on the wall. That was still a decent amount of Saban's crew culture. They recruited decent, but not great.
Yeah.
Williams, for all we know, he's a beast. The 17-year-old kid, if y'all haven't heard. But after that, if some guys, 1 or 2 guys hit the portal, your old line sucks. I think right now that I actually think it was the right move. I don't think he can raise his stock anymore. I think his best bet now is to get drafted, whether it's 4th round, but say 2nd to 4th round, and get and develop with the team he's going to be with versus staying in college. And I know he has plenty of NIL. I promise y'all that. He's good there. And I think if he's going to truly have a career, he needs to go to where that's all he's doing every day, all day. And there's a team that clearly picks him, and they're going to develop him in that way versus sticking around college. They're not going to win the Natty next year. Can we be honest about that? I don't see that happening.
No.
And so that's all you stay for.
It's
if you
completely
think you have
fair.
a complete team to do it, you go and get. I go back and I laugh because I'm in the business world now, and I played those few years in the league. I got in the business world. I was like thankful for the experience, but I just missed 5 years of being in the business world and having an opportunity to make more than I did in the league. And so it's little things like that.
Yeah.
And when you get to that point, you just
should
have
go to Miami.
Huh?
You should go to Miami and see if because
no, you're exactly right. You go to Miami and
I
think that dude, and that might be something that happens. He go to Miami even in a little bit different later round. Let's be real. Unfortunately for Tua, we don't know. But with his creativity, with his legs, he can work on being better at throwing the balls when he's training every day, all day, and twice on Sunday. And quite right, he actually throws a pretty good deep ball. So
I like him.
Or Waddle, and it'll be all right.
I like him too. I don't know if I'd be interested to see. I mean, obviously, if they take him, then you know that McDaniel is in on him being able to run that offense, which is
you got to have an insurance policy though for Tua at this point.
You do.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like the complexity of that offense is something that Tua can manage. I don't know if it's like Milroe's bad games look terrible, right? Like from a throwing standpoint, like he's prone to making some really bad decisions. So, but obviously, like if you're in no rush, like you're saying, Quan. What about with Carson Beck, who's got the severe injury? Should he?
That was a mistake. I'm putting my foot down and saying that was a mistake. Yes.
Oh yeah.
You're coming off a major injury in your worst season where you lost more money than Milroe. Look, in Milroe's defense, coaching staff changes, ton of transfer portal changes. You had a great year last year. The potential is clearly there for you. Hopefully you go to the right situation. Quite frankly, I'm not saying he's going to go as high as Anthony Richardson, but I like him more than Anthony Richardson coming out of college. Like he's a more complete, polished player than Anthony Richardson, more accomplished player. Yeah, exactly.
He's played more football too.
Played more football. He's a quarterback for Alabama. And look, that Georgia game was heroic. Carson Beck, when he was great, he was great, but he was not as often as great this year as he was last year. And when he was bad, he was awful. Now he has a major injury, and he's not going to go back to Georgia. It just doesn't make any sense.
Wouldn't be talked about in the public is what if Kirby's like, man,
yo, you're done.
We don't see you going in the right direction. Maybe he doesn't want to enter the portal. Maybe those things will never be talked about publicly, but who's to know? Listen, there's like you said, that makes zero sense optically, but personally and behind the scenes, I don't know that he had a choice because it is on every level not going in the right direction with
Right.
him. And then that was before the injury. And
Right.
then
Yeah.
you make a just insane comment about not watching football because I break it down too much. Well, you must not be watching your own film because you led the country in picks too.
Yeah.
And so it's
That was so stupid. That was so
yeah,
stupid.
God,
Why you
I
say
heard
like,
that.
why
I
you,
go, I think he thought that was clever. I'm sorry for him because it wasn't, and the scouts are going to be like, "What the
Hey,
bleep?"
if
He
those
must
guys
have-
are declaring though, that means Quinn is probably declaring as well because he's
Well,
going
that's
ahead of
what
those
I'm
guys.
saying. I think we're in this world where it needs to kind of make sense, but we're also in this world of if it makes some sense, it might be worth it depending on the noise around you. And
Yeah.
that's just something you have to pay attention to these days. And some guys that left early, they're like, you know what? I probably could have stayed, but Jamal Charles, if he stayed one more year, he's probably a top 15 pick, maybe top 10. You know, Jamal went to third. That's crazy, huh?
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Still worked out for him.
yeah,
Worked out, though.
thank you. Hey, you just literally made my point. It worked out for him, didn't it?
The Hall
Well,
of
it's also,
Famer.
I mean,
We're playing. Hey,
positions
we're
are
also
so
in a
different.
time where
Positions are
second
so
contracts are 10 times bigger than unless you're drafted in the top 15 to 20. Your second contract,
Right,
what you're playing for anyway.
There's actually something to it if you really believe in, especially if you're a quarterback and you know you're going to sit for the first year and a half or 2 years or something like that, and then all of a sudden
go later and get on a good team.
Yeah,
and a good
I was
organization.
talking to someone during the game, not arguing, but just kind of having like a discussion about Quinn's future. And he's like, I think Quinn's transferring for sure. He's got like a $6 million offer on the table, which like, okay, we don't know if that's all true, but even if it is, like, okay, $6 million, the kid's already made millions of dollars in NIL, and you're gonna make millions of dollars in the league if you're drafted in the third round and more. And like you said, Quan, you're playing for that next contract, not this contract. Go sit behind a quarterback, right? Don't lower your draft stock any more than it can be lowered by transferring to another university where you're not going to compete for the same level, you know, with the same amount of weapons and the same coaching staff. It's a mistake.
Unless it's Ohio State.
Sure, but
or
like
Oregon. Those are the only two places.
But that's it. And then, but
I hear
do you want
Belichick
to?
wants him.
Oh my god! But do you want to be in that? But that'd be wild. Do you want? But do you want to be in that position if you're him? I'm with you guys on Quinn though. Like,
no, go to the league.
I would try to get drafted even if later than I hope for.
Get drafted by the
Ray
Rams behind Stafford.
And Matt Stafford's ceilings, maybe 1 or 2 more years. Go with McVay.
Yeah, we always do this though, where we line up like, oh, it'd be nice to play with McDaniel in Miami. It'd be nice to play with McVay and behind Stafford. But it's like, yeah, but then what if you're on the Raiders? You know, like it's like,
yeah, no, he's going to the Jags.
You know what? You're still in the NFL.
it's true, but
you're still in the NFL. You're fine.
History would dictate you have a little bit tougher of a route than being coached by Sean McVay at that
Yeah,
point. But the money
is-
situation, if he's a second round pick, like you talked about, Quan, now you have less years to get to that second contract. And in fact, like I'm saying, if you sit for 2 years and then you only have 2 years to play and you look pretty good, guess what? You're probably going to get something on that second contract.
Exactly.
But, and also if you're a second, third round pick, I think you're around that amount of money anyway.
it's not NIL. Yes, you're making more in the NFL than you will be in the NIL. It'll
be between like 5 and 8, I think. So
per year.
Yeah. So he's right there.
You are.
So it gives a second, third round pick, and as a quarterback, he's going to go. And if he has a good game, which we'll cover next week against the Buckeyes, he had a good end to the game against Arizona State, won us that thing. If he has a good game against the Buckeyes, which I think we hope happens.
Yeah,
but
I was just making a face because Caleb Downs is an absolute animal.
Their team is ridiculous. Their team's sick.
Caleb Downs is everywhere. I couldn't believe. I was like, how did that guy get what? Where was he? How did he get there? How did he get his hand on that ball? Yeah, I know. And he's only
that was a guy that
one more year of eligibility. Yeah.
Same with their freaking one. I mean, Jade, this is like it for Jade.
What a great matchup though. Like lastly, to just say, okay, cool, Scattaboo, like he's really good. Whatever. He was the runner up to being a finalist for the Heisman. Maybe he should have been. Who knows? This is the right matchup though, because our defensive backfield and the talent there, the Thorpe winner, our young edge rushers, Anthony Hill at the linebacker spot, like our defense, what we can do up front to put pressure on Will Howard. They have clearly the best wide receiver room in college football, in my opinion.
The best wide receiver.
and the best wide receiver and 2 really good running backs who demonstrated their talent in that last. Like, this is power on power. This is gonna be a fun match.
Well, this is what you eventually, and even why you need a playoff system, because it's fun and it's great and it's all the above. But the Final Four, it typically shapes out the way it does. Now, there will be that crazy year where something happened. Hell, it almost did last week, but which only added drama, which is good for college football. By the way, can you imagine the Big 12 commissioner's emotions?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, earmark whatever his name is. He's freaking there, and he was, and it was Texas.
He had it. He was close.
Oh, dude, he literally is in the fetal position right now. So, but
It's
no,
like, dude,
man,
you just got that team. You just got Arizona State. You're lucky, you're even in this position, dude.
No,
like
no, he would have, because he would claim, "Oh, we got rid of them and we got this one and they beat all." And it's a SEC. Listen, that's how those cats think. And now he's can go back home and kiss it. But nah, man, it's the matchups are now. Regardless of who wins tonight, you're gonna have a Penn State. Kudos to them, by the way. Penn State, they're still, as weird as it is, kind of flying under the radar. And the route they had makes sense, but they're flying under the radar. And then you're going to have Georgia or Notre Dame, a blue blood. You got Ohio State, Texas. And this is why college football is what it is.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be freaking awesome.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Penn State is good for them. They've had the easiest path, A, and B, he never, ever, 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 ever wins the big game, ever. So I will be the most shocked person in America if Penn State's in the national championship, let alone wins.
I agree.
All right, gents. We'll see you guys for the Buckeyes preview. Those listening on ESPN, awesome. Once again, happy New Year to you guys. Fisher DeSopoulos, DJ Nikki Snacks Credit, the Quan Cosby. Get your horns up. We'll see you guys later.
Hook 'em.